Electricast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli again with another episode of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Today I'm with Tara Wiskow. Tara, say hello to our audience.
Hello to everyone. Hello, Claudia. Thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure. Tara's talking to us from Minnesota. Do I have that right?
You have that right.
Okay. Tara's an intuitive healer, an energy coach, and life reinvention expert who helps women break free from internal blocks, energetic clutter, and outdated identities so they can create the body, life, and relationships that they desire. After losing 220 pounds, let me say that again, 220 pounds naturally and healing deep emotional wounds, Tara now guides others through transformational shifts using modalities like NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and integrated energy therapy, Theta Healing. We'll start out with that, and intuitive coaching. She specializes in helping women to reclaim their power, release shame, and embody their truest selves through aligned action and deep energetic clearing, releasing, and healing. Now, and then, of course, I will include her contact places and website, things like that. So there's a lot here on the back burner and the front burner, Tara. My compliments. When was this huge weight loss? How long ago?
It started 18 years ago.
Okay.
Is when, if I'm completely honest, Claudia, it started in my junior year of high school. Is when I truly started my weight loss journey. And that time was yo-yo dieting and really losing the same 5 pounds over and over for a number of years. And my true weight loss journey, where I really honestly connected with understanding what I needed to do. And that was love myself down the scale and allow myself to lose weight the healthy way. That would have been 18 years ago.
Okay. We'll talk more in depth about that. While I was introducing you, we mentioned NLP, but we'll go deep dive into that. Theta Healing. Can you explain that to us? Theta Healing, THETA.
Yeah. Theta Healing is honestly where you go up into the space of where God is the seventh plane and you hold space. It's really going up and requesting and asking for guidance in helping someone be healed based on what it is they're needing healing on. And a lot of different practitioners use it. For some are based in working through illnesses. It could be anything as far as an infection. It could be pain in the body, weight loss, really, truly whatever it is.
Tara, when you say plane, is that the same as dimension? Like the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, the seventh dimension? Could we say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. And so it's holding space to allow that God goes into the body and actually heals and you observe it. Because in Theta Healing, they say that if it's not seen and observed, it didn't take place. And so you hold that space and stay there until it is completed and you are given the intuitive guidance to know that this healing has been done.
When you say, I'll always stop you and ask you for definitions, okay? When you say you hold that space, exactly what is it that you do? What does that mean, holding that space?
For me, I imagine that each practitioner is different. For me, it's actually sitting. I am sitting in a state of theta myself where I am breathing in, I'm relaxed, my eyes are closed, I'm observing what I'm seeing take place. And so
when you say observing, you mean you're visualizing with your mind, or there's a difference for me. I mean, visualizing is seeing, is creating, and then seeing is a different thing. So what exactly?
So I suppose we would say it's seeing in my mind's eye as I'm I'm seeing what is happening based on what God is doing in the healing. So I see it intuitively. I see it in my mind's eye. I don't see it with my real eyes. My real eyes aren't
Okay.
seeing it happen. I am within my mind's eye space watching this healing take place, knowing the guidance that is, or the healing that's needing to be done. A great example of it, Claudia, is I
Good.
had a woman that had surgery and she
Yes.
knew she needed to have some healing done prior to this surgery. She
Yes.
didn't know why. She just knew
Felt it.
that she was receiving intuitive guidance. And so she came to me and we did the Theta Healing. And as I held space, I knew that we needed to go through her brain and I needed to hold space and that healing was being done. Pieces of her brain were being melded together, things were being cleared out, neural pathways were being filled in so new pathways could be created, and I watched all of this in my mind's
Oh,
eye as it
wait
took
a minute, wait a
place.
minute. Here, look, I'm imagining as you're talking, a woman in front of all of the burners there, putting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Now, this person is physically in front of you or back of you, in the room with you?
It was virtuals on Zoom, so her,
Okay,
just like you and I are right next to each
right.
other. Yeah, she was right next to me,
And
and I
since not very many people, well, let's say a lot of people in my experience have difficulty getting into a space that of the type that you're describing. Are there instructions for the person, or do the instructions come in advance, or how do you interact before you actually go through the process?
how I interact, this is how I do this, is prior to the session with anybody that I'm with,
Uh-huh.
I ground, I clear, I protect myself, and then I do what I call is I pull that individual in. So I create a heart link that goes from
Okay,
me
good.
into the woman that or the individual that I'm working with. And when I have that heart link, I now have like an umbilical cord that brings us together.
Okay.
And that umbilical cord, that heart link, is what gives us that connection working in the healing, and the communication then starts to come into my mind because I have this heart link connected in.
So the person, Madam X, is just relaxed and
Yes.
there. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Is
They're relaxed. They may fall asleep.
Yes.
They're absolutely meant to stay in theta. I don't want to talk much to them. I don't want to take them out of theta because as soon as I take them out of theta, they're not relaxed. I need them to be fully relaxed for the healing to take place.
Okay. So is there a process? How long does that last usually?
It
That
all really truly depends. It depends upon the situation and what we're working on.
Well, do you feel, are you sensitized to when you're in the know of when that's enough? Say half an hour, 20 minutes.
Mhm.
This woman or man is done. The process is done. And then you can do, say, an after debrief, let's say, and talk about what had happened. Is there an average time that this process takes?
If I were to give it an average, I would say anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes has
Mhm.
been the norm in my experience.
Okay. And after that, do you have a session? Well, a debrief. Do you talk about what
Mhm.
happened? Do you tell her, look, this is what I saw, this is what I felt? Is that
Yeah.
right?
I do. And the reason that I find it's important is that as if they don't fall asleep, they feel like this gal felt the pressure. She could feel the tingling. She could feel
Yeah.
sensations in her body. And so I explain to it and I always go into it letting them know once we're done, I will talk to you about this.
Mhm.
Because if I don't tell them that, then they're not going to relax because they're
Right,
trying to
right,
figure it out. They won't ask
right,
questions.
right, right. And so I'm just going to ask you a lot of questions because I put myself in the shoes of the listeners. Okay. So let's say that's one session. All right. Leading up to that, when a person comes to you, do you establish a certain number of sessions or do you say, this is the way I work? say, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, you say, what I usually find that I need only one session with the person, or one, and then after a few months, another. This is what it is. Does that happen? Or do you establish a pattern? Say, a person pays for 5 sessions with you, or is it like the car wash? I don't know. How does it work?
Honestly, Claudia, it is so dependent upon each person. And
Yeah.
I'm really guided spiritually by my spirit guides, by the divine creator of all that is, to know what's best. And so I'll ask, what is needed? What does this woman, what does
Yeah.
my client need? Please give me the guidance. And so oftentimes it can be a one-off. They come in and they've got
Yes.
a one-off,
Sure.
and they'll come back when they know they're ready.
Yep.
Or I've had situations where I have said, I am aware and being instructed and guided to share with you that we're going to need 3 sessions in order to completely heal this. So I can't answer that to know, is there a norm? There's not. It's really dependent upon the situation, the client,
Sure.
and I fully trust the guidance.
Can I ask if you can remember what was the longest period of time that required for a client, for a person in your guidance?
I had one woman, the longest. We honestly were on a session for right around, it was about 78 minutes where
Oh, no,
we
no,
went
no.
through.
Sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I mean, how long, how many sessions, how the longest number of sessions?
Got you. Yes. Yes, great. Yeah, no, sorry about that. I didn't clarify. One woman had 8 different sessions. We went through 8 different sessions to get to the full. And I have to say, not all of it was theta. Much it included, and that's how I work. Is I bring in a little bit of each in it. And so I have NLP, I have IET, energy clearing, theta, all in my sessions.
Okay, so let's you open the door to NLP.
Yeah.
All right, let's make believe. Let's create a make believe client, and it's a person who lasts a long time. Okay, once a month for 7 months. I don't know, one every other week for
Favorite. Okay.
And so, give me an example of how this I don't want to say triangulation, but many pronged system works, healing system works, actually with what NLP does for a person. How is it done by you, and what it is exactly?
Yeah. So neurolinguistic programming is where we're actually, how I use it. There's a lot of different ways that we can use it, but it's working with the mind. It's the bringing the subconscious and the conscious mind together so they're working together rather than separately, because 95% of our life is lived on autopilot, which is in the unconscious space. We're thinking and doing things without even having awareness that we are in that space.
Yeah.
Whereas 5% is where we're actually conscious of what's going on. So we need to bring them together so that we're actually able to clear out much of the negative, the toxic, the limiting pieces of us in that unconscious, so that we no longer are living behind these beliefs that are controlling us in that unconscious space.
It's the use of language, the concerted use of language during NLP. You use language in a certain way for certain reasons.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. There's that definitely when we're going in and releasing limiting beliefs. There's very specific language that is used to speak to the unconscious mind. So for instance, when I ask someone what age they believe that this truth became true for them, and they say, I don't know, my response is, I know that you don't know, but if you were to know. And as soon as I do that, it cues the unconscious mind up to say, oh, I know, I got you covered. I got you.
Yeah.
So very specific language that connects us into the unconscious mind and allows me to be able to bring their unconscious mind front and center, and they speak to me through their unconscious mind.
Excellent example. Excellent example you just gave us. It's very, very clear. Another something that stands out in the description well, in the presentation, and it emerges really clearly. The word shame, releasing shame. Many of us don't don't define it as such, but shame is widespread. It's widespread among the population everywhere, not only women.
Right.
What, in your case, in your practice, what does shame look like to you? How can you recognize it beyond having the clients say, I live in a state of shame?
Yeah. When you talk about something with them and instantly you see that they start to recoil, they want to pull back,
Mm-hmm.
they shrink down. It's very evident to me when they say, when they talk about themselves in a way of saying, I was really stupid this one time. I just can't get past thinking about these choices that I made. It just disgusts me that this was me. I can't believe how far I let myself go. All of that is that shame that's coming to
Mm-hmm.
the surface. They feel so disgusted with themselves. And that is very, very keyed into being full of shame for
Mm-hmm.
the choices they made, the decisions they made.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Now, another, let's say, very common grouping or description are emotional wounds. Now, pairing these two together, what does that mean to you, emotional wounds?
Emotional. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, emotional wounds. What are the different faces of emotional wounds?
Wow. I mean, we could be here all day,
Yeah.
Claudia, because emotional wounds are so deep and they're
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
diversified between
Yeah.
each individual that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional wounds show up things that occur and they cause pain within our body. They cause an unsettling feeling, uncertainty. I think about when I was 8 years old and I discovered that my dad, who I thought was my dad, wasn't. He
Uh-huh.
became my stepdad.
Mm.
And that created an emotional wound when I realized that I now was different in one way or another. And I felt like I didn't belong. That became an emotional wound for
Mm-hmm.
me. And I still feel it. Even though I've
Of
healed and I've
course.
worked through it,
Oh, of
I
course.
feel it in my chest instantly of you didn't belong.
Mhm.
You aren't really his. And in every way possible, my dad, who is my stepdad, but he'll always be my dad, he chooses me. Nobody would know that he's not my dad other than he's blonde haired and blue eyed. We don't look anything alike. But that's an example of emotional wound that festers within. It's something that starts to take up space within
Mm.
us. It operates us. We think by it, we
Mhm.
feel by it, we do by it. And
Yeah.
so when I believed I didn't belong, I started to create this belief that I had to shape shift. I had to
Ah.
be in belonging. I needed to be that girl that didn't get in
Oh,
trouble. She
dear.
was always perfect. Everything she did
Oh.
was just right
Oh,
because
my.
then I could belong. So that to me is what an emotional wound is. It
Okay.
actually is an operator in your
Okay.
system.
So let's say this is a case in this example. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
That occurs at a very young age, and many, if not most, emotional wounds, I could safely say, occur in a very young
Yeah.
age while we are supposed to be guarded by parents. Okay, there comes a
Yeah.
time that politics and systems, administrative systems the world over tells us that at a certain age, 16, 18, 21 years old, we're supposed to be adults. But some
Right.
emotional wounds just never go away. In your experience, if you can pick your brain about this, what are common emotional wounds that occur in adulthood?
Hmm. I think that's hard for me to answer because I truly believe every emotional wound truly only ever starts in before our imprintings. Okay, so I'm going to say it this way.
Mhm.
Our emotional wounds are decisions that we decide to be true for us, and they
Yes.
come from past lives. They come passed down generationally. They're in the womb, during our birth, or our imprinting phase of 0 to 7 years old. So there's always a placeholder that
Sure.
started way before we could ever
Sure.
imagine.
Sure.
And I look at it this way. That placeholder becomes a file folder that has a tag on it that says, you'll never be good enough, for
Okay.
example.
Right. In that
And
case.
as we go through life and into adulthood, the experiences we have are placed into this file folder as proof that that belief is true for us.
Okay.
And that's our nervous system, our unconscious mind, doing its due diligence to protect us so that
Okay.
we don't continue to show up in ways that cause us pain. And
Okay.
so for me, as a transformational speaker and going out on a stage for a long time, I didn't understand that this belief of you don't belong
Mhm.
continued to tell me, you don't belong on a stage. Who are you? You're not
Right.
smart enough. You're
Mhm.
not good enough. You don't look like the people in the audience. You can't be there. And so I would continue to find ways to not show up. I would
Mhm.
sabotage myself.
Okay. Mhm.
That is an example of an
Mhm.
emotional wound
Uh-huh.
truly being active as an adult. Does that answer
Mhm.
your question?
Sure, in part. I do agree with you that our wounds, all kinds of wounds, and our experiences in general do come through genetics and past lives, and we sign contracts before we get to this world, and we want to have those experiences. Okay. I was thinking along these terms that in a more puberty, pre-puberty, and adult life is when the sexual sphere comes into play and is challenged. And that's when wounds concerning our sexuality occur, which are
Mm.
very, very common. Have you had experience with that in with your clients?
Yeah, I think more for myself because it's something that I'm becoming aware of. And so it's more awareness for myself of that sexuality of myself being a woman, of how I've realized I've always been masculine. And I understand why I've always erred on the side of masculine
Mm-hmm.
versus the femininity of allowing myself to be a woman, to be
Mm-hmm.
okay with being a woman, is that fear of being good enough and always having to
Sure.
be
In
in the
this case,
do
yeah.
and
Sure, in this case,
yeah,
but I was
yeah,
thinking of violence, of rape, having
gotcha.
having had experiences not generated by ourselves, but having
Oh, yes,
imposed
yes.
on
I
us.
have definitely, yeah.
Mhm.
I've had women that have been raped. I have had women that have been violated, domestically assaulted. I've been through each of those myself. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes, my clients have
Yeah, so
experienced
those
those.
are emotional wounds. And of course, God, we could talk forever about physical wounds. I mean, if I
Yeah.
don't want to go there. I don't even want to talk about it. Let me go back just a bit because the whole thought of using NLP to work with energy healing combined is very, very interesting. There's a topic that you suggested is, and going back to the weight loss, when you were telling us that 18 years ago is when you started in earnest on your weight loss journey, the truth about weight loss, why emotional and energetic healing matters more than diets. That would be great
Mm.
if you could talk about that through examples, through clients,
Yeah.
yours.
When we're dieting, we're focusing on food and we're focusing on movement and exercise, which are absolutely important. They are
Mm-hmm.
vital to the journey and the successes that you create for yourself, but they're not tapping into the inner struggles that you have going on, those beliefs that you have that you live behind. It's not possible for me to lose weight. It's not safe to lose weight. Going back to rape, I had a woman who every time she got close to losing 60 pounds, she would begin to sabotage and she would gain anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds. As soon as one time she lost 57 pounds, I celebrated her and she went on a run, binge eating, and
Oh,
gained 7 pounds. She lost 58 pounds. I celebrated her. She did the very same thing. At that moment, I realized something was going on internally. There
mm-hmm.
was something that had happened that she wasn't connected with that we needed to understand.
Right. Good.
Once I dropped in and talked with her about this, I pulled her in, we had a conversation, I started to feel into her body. It brought us back to the moment when she was raped. She'd
Okay.
went out, she was celebrating a 60-pound weight
Oh,
loss, and
dear.
that night she was raped.
Mm-hmm.
She created this belief in her body that anytime you lose 60
Oh.
pounds,
Mm-hmm.
danger is near, pain will happen, misfortune shows up. So
Mm-hmm.
she would not unconsciously. And
Yeah.
she said to me, she's like, Tara, I don't know why I won't let myself lose 60 pounds because I want to lose 90. Why can't
Mm-hmm.
I? This is why.
Mm-hmm.
Once we were released that belief out,
Yeah,
once
yeah.
we used energy clearing and we healed her and pulled all of that out of her,
Mm-hmm.
she's now lost over 90
Yeah,
pounds and
yeah, yeah,
living her
yeah.
best life. But we had to get that belief, that emotional wound purged and released out of her
Yes.
body.
Yeah.
She was no longer blocked behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why NLP, energy healing, IET is more important at times
Yeah.
than the diet, because a diet cannot go into the depths of our inner body, our mind, and our soul to heal what is blocking us
Right.
from losing weight.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. There's so many things that we could talk about, but I'm wondering if you could remember or share with us one of the most successful stories, a client, and you were just so happy because they overcame who knows what, but you didn't expect. It was so successful. It made you feel good.
Yeah. The one that comes to mind immediately
Uh-huh.
is a woman who is in my weight loss program as well as my authenticity program. She's in
Mm-hmm.
both of them. And she wanted to run. That was her one thing that she wanted to do, was run. And she was
Mm-hmm.
very upset because she had a prosthetic leg and she
Ah.
believed she couldn't run. And this
Oh.
came from a basis of being a little girl who had a neighbor who had a prosthetic leg, and everybody felt sorry for him. And he always said, I can't run. I feel like such a disappointment to my children. And
Ah.
at the age of 12, she was in an accident and ended up with a prosthetic leg. And from that day forward, she believed she naturally
Oh.
couldn't run because she had a prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
And so I remember asking her, do you know of anybody that's ever ran? She wanted to run a half marathon. And I said, do you know of anybody with a prosthetic leg that's ran? And she said, yes, there are people with two prosthetic
Oh.
legs that have ran a half marathon. And I said, well, why can't that be true for you too? And in moving through the releasing of the limiting beliefs, finding the blocks, finding where she was being held back, dropping into that childhood memory of this neighbor that
Mm-hmm.
lived behind this belief, we were able to release that and move her beyond that. And one day I got an invitation in the mail and I opened it up, and it was her asking me to stand on
Oh.
the sidelines as she
Oh.
came across the finish
Oh,
line of
how
her very
cute.
first,
They're
yeah,
wonderful.
her very
Wow.
first half marathon. And I did. And that day, watching her, she was a woman that had ran in her mind at that point all of her life. There was never a day that she
Ah,
didn't run.
half
She,
marathons are fast.
a
They're
half,
not like
yeah,
they're fast. Yeah.
yeah. She
Interesting.
did incredible. Absolutely incredible. She is my client that I feel had such an amazing transformation, and
Good.
she got her life back because she
Back.
gave herself
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah. All right. Now I'm going to go the opposite end of the spectrum. A case where, or perhaps it's even ongoing, you don't have to talk about it, we could invent it, that you just feel you couldn't get your teeth in and there was something not working, or there was a mismatch between you and the client. You just couldn't work with them. Or let's say not a failure case, but something that was less satisfactory than you would usually prefer.
Yeah, I think every coach has this. And if any coach says that they don't, they're not
Right.
being honest, because
Right. Yeah.
everybody has people that they just don't resonate with. And I'm not a good fit for everybody. And
Yeah.
that's how it is.
There's
So
an
I've
expression
had
in
a few.
Italian. There's an expression in Italian that says, "Not all donuts come out with holes," which I don't understand, but it's used for this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That is true. That
Yeah.
is true. Some of them have filling and some of them, yes, yes, so true. I've had a few women that I just was not, I didn't work well with because we just didn't jive.
Ah,
I think about one woman that we did jive. We had a great working relationship.
yeah.
I coached her. She had amazing results. However,
Ah,
she wasn't able to have the full breakthrough and she wouldn't allow herself to because she had somebody in the background that she loved that continued to tell her, this work is woo woo. This isn't
yeah,
okay to
of
do
course.
this. You're
Of course.
crazy.
Of
And
course.
she continued to be overruled by this voice
Yes.
that told her,
Yeah.
it's not good to do this, stop doing this. And I just couldn't get her to let the talons of that person go. She was
Hmm.
too indebted to that person. She was too fearful of losing that
Yeah.
person. And
Hmm.
so I
It's a
had to make
shame.
the decision to let her know that as long as you allow this person's voice to be louder than the voice within you, nothing can
It's
change
gonna
for you.
work.
You will always struggle. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there some donuts don't have holes, I guess. Like,
That's
it's so varied, the experience that you've had and the services that you offer, which prompts me to say, have you considered, of apart from your courses or your groups that you have on possibly on your website, have you thought of creating a publication, or I want to say nonfiction, but could be fiction as well, a book that talks about your own journey, a memoir, or some other concept as a nonfiction using the tools that you use? Have you thought about that?
I have, and the first step has been actually my keynote, and so I've overcome my beliefs that I don't belong on a stage,
Yes.
and so I am out I'm out on the stages and I'm speaking my keynote, and it is She Rises. That is the
Good,
title of it, and I talk about it. So I bring my story in and I bring my tools into it, and the next step is going to be a book that
good.
I will publish that shares it. Thank
She
you. Thank you
Rises.
for that.
Nice. I like the title. Good.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so, so much for coming to talk to us. I hope in the future we can, after you get your book out there, and we could talk about that. That would be
Yeah,
great.
would
Great.
be great. Yes.
Okay,
Thank
Tara,
you.
you have a nice, pleasant day ahead of you, and we'll talk again, I'm sure.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow Let's Talk Soul podcast on Instagram. Let's Talk Soul podcast is a production of Electrocast Media. Our executive producers are Mark Netter and Peter Rafelson. If you like our show and like what you hear, please subscribe and give us a rating wherever you enjoy podcasts. And remember, stay curious, stay inspired, and never stop exploring the depths of your soul.